Live. Hello, everybody. Chuck Holton here. I am coming to you from my balcony again in Jerusalem. And I drove back today from Eilat, had a productive trip down there, but it was just really hot. Man, that place is uncomfortable. But even this morning wasn't so bad. I went for a run before the sun really got too high, and it was bearable, but it felt like I was in Phoenix or someplace. So pretty hot. Anyway, got a lot to talk to you about today. Man, I tell you what, if I ever just am looking for something to do a live about, all I have to do is just go out there to old Scott Ritter, and that guy provides me with so much content to debunk. He's really something else. I've never seen anybody who could just be so consistently wrong, just so incredibly bad at putting out truthful information. He started that with the information he was putting out on Ukraine, and then moved over to Israel. And he holds himself out there as some kind of expert. But man, if he's the expert that people are listening to, they are in trouble because they are not getting the truthful story. And so I wanted to counter an interview that he just put out, which was aired, I don't know, just a few hours ago, actually, on YouTube earlier today, and give you first, let you listen to what he said, and then we'll talk about what he said. But before I do that, I want to just say good afternoon to everybody and good morning to everybody wherever you happen to be. Thank you for coming on the show on a Saturday. And so hit the like button and make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We have grown by more than 10,000 viewers in the last month, and that's really exciting to me. That's great. So although when I look at the stats, it still blows me away that there's a good portion of you, probably 60% of you, who are not subscribed. Now, some people can't subscribe because they're watching on Roku or on their television or something like that. That's okay, I understand. But if you get a chance, just go find us on your phone on YouTube, or go to chuckholton.com and subscribe over there. And that way you can get notified when we're going to be going live, and you won't miss any of them because we like to interact with you. That's one of the great things about this platform, is that it allows us to interact, and that's really cool. So I'm here, I'm ready. I've got my Jordan Pond water. I love this stuff, actually. It's growing on me. And don't complain if I drink from it, because I'm still pretty dry from being down there in the desert for a long time. Amy asks, what is going on in the West Bank? I see the soldiers being live streamed. Yeah, they are still working on a major operation in Judea and Samaria. They have captured dozens of terrorists. They've killed probably 20 or so far. They have found weapons caches. They've found Hamas headquarters. And this tells us a lot about what is likely coming as this war evolves and progresses, is that as they get done with cleaning out Gaza, there's still a lot of Hamas fighters and Hamas sympathizers right over there. Well, right over there in East Jerusalem, that way. And not only there, but also up in Hezbollah land in Lebanon. So that's a big deal. Justice Worley, I have been telling Oscar to keep his head up, and he is doing so. He's doing well. Yeah, etrog. This is etrog juice, and it's kind of like lemonade mixed with the clippings from your lawn. It's not bad. It's got, when you get to the bottom, it's a little chewy. It's got a lot of pulp in it, but it's got to be good for you. I mean, anything that's that color, it's got to be good for you. Got to be. So I buy them by the gallon now. Okay, so let's take a look at what Scott Ritter had to say on this interview that he gave today. And if you want to go watch the whole thing so you can see that I'm not just cherry picking out of there, I did include the link to the full video in the description of this video, so you can go down there and watch it. But just listen to what he had to say about Israel.
Israel has lost. I have said repeatedly, I think the die has been cast. Israel cannot recover from this conflict. Economically, the Israeli economy is in tatters, and it's not going to rebuild.
So Israel is losing. They have already lost. Their economy is in tatters, he says. He goes on to talk more about that for about 5 minutes, just talking about how absolutely terrible the economy is here, which was kind of a surprise to me because I've been here for months since the war started. And man, the restaurants are open, the stores are open. If you go downtown in the shopping district, I wanted to show you, I didn't get a chance to load this one in, but I wanted to show you just a little bit of the shopping district. I made a short about this on the YouTube channel today or yesterday that I shot night before last right over here, where there's a open air kind of restaurant thing and all that. But yeah, I just wanted to show you this, and I'll just hold it up to the camera so you can see it. This is those people look really worried about incoming rockets and things like that, don't they? They look really worried about that. And that was right here in Jerusalem. Last night in Eilat, man, there were tons of people out. It felt like Las Vegas down there. Who are the Rosh Hashanah? No, Peter, that's Hashanah. And those are the Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria, the Hashanah you've heard me talk about. Okay, so I mean, just from my own anecdotal experience here in Israel, the stores are open, people are out shopping, doing their thing. I mean, I just went to Eilat, where the port down there is closed, and obviously that is a huge hit to Israel. I mean, because that's one of 3 major ports that they have, but they've been able to shift a lot of the shipping to the other ports. And so, because they have, look, if that port in Eilat brings in vehicles and sends out agricultural products and potash and minerals and things like that are mined in southern Israel. Well, if you can't take it to Eilat, you can just take it to Ashkelon and send it out that way. So it has caused a hit for sure to that port, and that port itself had to declare bankruptcy, but it doesn't mean that Israel's economy is destroyed. And so that's my anecdotal experience here, that, gosh, I mean, the country still seems to be doing all right, yeah, they got a lot of people that are in the military. They're and those people can't work their regular jobs. Okay, that's an issue, but it is not as much of an issue as you might think. And so I went and did some research, and I want to kind of take it point by point. Okay, so I made some notes, and I'm going to go down through my notes. Those aren't my notes. Okay, so let's take this point by point here. All right. The overall economic effect of the war on Israel is that Israel's economy has slowed down since the start of the conflict, yes. The International Monetary Fund revised its growth forecast for Israel downward. It doesn't mean that Israel is going backwards. It doesn't have negative growth. It's just not growing as fast. The war has led to, of course, increased military spending, and that has increased their deficit. I'm giving you all the bad news first. There has been a sharp decline in tourism, but that has rebounded surprisingly well. There are, there are actually quite a few tourists here right now. Even though some airlines have suspended their flights here, you can still get here on airlines that have not. And so people are coming. Their credit rating has decreased slightly. It could increase the government's borrowing cost because of that. And the Israeli shekel has weakened against other currencies, but not by a lot. I haven't noticed a tremendous difference in the buying power of the dollar, for example, between when I first came here and now. And then the bigger bad news is that as the time goes on, these things will be a drag on the economy going forward, right? That does not mean that Israel is going to collapse. And this is what I want to point out, that Israel's economy was performing very well before the war, and they had very strong financial buffers in place that have shielded them from the worst of the conflict, okay? So now, to give you an idea what that means, I want to talk a little bit about a comparison that I made between the United States and Israel, okay? So if you were to compare Israel's financial state now in war, after they've been at war for 10 and a half, 11 months, with the United States economic prospects, what you're going to find is that in many ways, Israel is better off than the United States, even though the U.S. is not at war. As far as economic growth goes, the U.S. is only slightly better. They were about the same before the war. Actually, Israel was a little bit better, almost 3% growth for Israel. The United States is 2.1. The Israeli economy is still growing, and it's expected to grow by 1.6% this year. And last year, they grew by 2%. So it's down about 0.4%. The U.S. growth rate is about 2.1%. So just slightly higher. And that's not a lot to be concerned about as far as their growth rate. They are growing, and to be able to do that in the midst of a war is actually pretty good for Israel. Israel's projected fiscal deficit is projected to increase to about 6% between now and 2025. So they are spending more money than they're bringing in, and that's not a good thing. The U.S. fiscal deficit is right now about 5.3% of our GDP, so almost the same, just slightly lower, and we're not at war with anybody. Public debt, this is where it's going to blow you away. Israel's public debt runs about 67% of GDP. That's actually on the very low end for developed Western countries. The United States, based on its published debt, and I'll get to why I said that way in a minute, but based on its published debt, the United States public debt is about 123% of our gross domestic product every year. That is sky high. That's double what Israel's is. And that is a significant drain on the U.S. economy. Now, the reason I said it the way I did, that is the percentage of their public debt, their published public debt, is because the United States has gotten very good at playing this shell game of hiding debt, but the debt is still there. They just learned to call it other things to make the economy look better on paper than it is in practice. And so if you were to add up all of the things that the United States is going to be on the hook to pay for in the next 15, 20 years, we're not talking about $37 trillion, which is the published figure now. We're talking about over $220 trillion, which obviously is a lot more than 37 trillion, and that makes the actual public debt, or the public unfunded liabilities, if you will, significantly, I mean, way higher than the published debt. So it's, I don't know, 800% of our GDP, something. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is mathematically impossible for us to get out of that ever. I mean, you're not going to grow your way out of unfunded liabilities like that. And the United States keeps adding to those unfunded liabilities in a way that doesn't show up on the public debt roster, but it's still money that we're going to have to pay back. And so it'd be like if you said, well, I only have $60,000 of debt right now, because that's what I owe on my house. That's my mortgage that I owe on my house. And and somebody said, well, wait a minute. What about, it looks like you've got $200,000 on credit cards. And you go, well, yeah, but I call that unfunded liabilities. That's not debt. That's just unfunded liabilities. So that's what the United States basically is doing. And they do it so that the politicians can make it look better than it is and try to claim that they're doing a good job when they're really not. And I say that, but I don't know to what extent, if any, Israel is doing that. Israel's unfunded liabilities are different than their published public debt. So that's not a comparison. It's just to say that even the published numbers are twice as bad for the United States as they are for Israel in the midst of 10 and a half months of war. Okay? So Israel is doing far better than the United States. So if Scott Ritter says that Israel's economy is in shambles, well, I wonder what he would say about the United States economy. And the United States hasn't seen 67% of GDP in terms of public debt for decades, for a long, I mean, probably since I was in college or something. And so at the rate they're going, Israel is not about to collapse. They're not about to, just give up. They're not losing. They're certainly not losing the war. I mean, if this is what losing looks like, I'd hate to see winning. Now, one other thing that is, it's a little different. It's a little difficult to compare between Israel and the United States is reserves. Okay. How much do we have in reserves? Okay. Israel actually holds more than $200 billion in financial foreign exchange reserves. Okay. $200 billion. Any guess how much the United States has? We don't hold foreign currency. We hold it in gold. But how much gold does the United States have? Any guess? Now, keep in mind that the United States is a $17 trillion economy, and Israel is a $500 billion economy. Okay, so they're half a trillion, and the United States is 17 trillion. So just take a guess how much the United States holds in reserves in gold. Any ideas? Let's see if I can get an answer from somebody. Let's see here. I'm going to wait for a comment. Let's see if I can. My guess, none. Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time out in the sun, that's for sure. Any guesses? Is Fort Knox empty? 0. You guys are all saying 0. Well, it's not 0. P. Corn says crap ton. I don't know. 2.95. Yeah, 0. You guys have as much faith in the U.S. economy as I do, apparently. 200 million, 800 billion. Nope, it's about $11 billion. So Israel's economy, which has, which is about $500 billion a year, 500 billion a year, has 200 billion in foreign asset reserves set aside. The United States, which has a $17 trillion economy, has 11 billion set aside. Now, I have to caveat that there is a difference, and the difference is that the United States can just, they're a reserve currency. The US dollar is a reserve currency. So US just prints it. We don't have to actually have any money set aside to, back that up or anything. We just print it. Yeah, we get a $17 trillion economy. We'll just make more. And, during the entire Obama administration, we were pumping about $60 billion a month into the U.S. economy and just printing it out of thin air. That was called quantitative easing, by the way. They come up with a really nice term for it. But yeah, the United States has gold reserves worth about 11 billion, and that's all. So not great. All of that to say, Scott Ritter is full of hot air. The Israeli economy is arguably in better shape in many ways than the United States economy. We could run these numbers for Israel, compare Israel to other countries, for example, like France, okay? France's economy is almost 3 trillion, but their per capita GDP is about the same as France. As Israel, just a little bit more. Israel is growing. Their deficit is growing about 1% less than France's is. About 1% more than France's is. Israel's debt is, again, 67% of GDP. France's is 112%. Foreign exchange assets, France has no separate foreign exchange reserves. That's all held in the European Central Bank, so that's not a good comparison there. But Israel is growing, has a higher growth rate despite the ongoing conflict than France does. So Israel is winning against France in terms of growth. We could look at like Ireland, which is roughly equal to Israel in terms of their GDP, but the growth rate for Israel is 1.6. The growth rate for Ireland projected this year is 1.2. So Ireland's public debt is probably double what Israel's is. They don't publish it exactly. And so, you just look at any of these numbers, you're going to have a hard time making a reasonable case that Israel's economy is in tatters. I kept trying, let's try Israel and Jordan, okay? Jordan's economy is about a third of what Israel's is, a little bit less than that. Their GDP per capita is about 1/4 of what Israel's is. Jordan has, about the same number of people. And they, of course, have been hurt by this war as well. That's why I wanted to look at Jordan. But by most measures I could find, Israel is doing slightly better or at least the same as Jordan. So how, well, I wanted to say how or where Scott Ritter is getting these numbers. I would like to know. He's not getting them anywhere. He's just making it up. Because these numbers are not out there. You can't, unless, he's trying to copy what other people that are naysayers against Israel are saying. Guys like McGregor, and there are others. But so hit the like button, please, folks. Yeah, thank you for that. And make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Now, let's go on to the next thing that Scott Ritter said, and that has to do with demographics in Israel. He claims that there are, and I've heard this not just from him, but some of the viewers that were watching last night were commenting, that I went back and answered them later. They were commenting that millions of people are fleeing Israel. Thank you, MM. They were saying, yeah, I've heard millions of people are fleeing Israel because of the war, and Israel's, crumbling. Well, that's actually not the case, but let's listen to what Ritter had to say here about it.
And basically, all of these factors are created in Israel that is not a safe place to live. It's not a good place to live, not a good place to raise children. And I think you're going to see millions of Israelis who have dual citizenship flee Israel. And now you have a...
I did it again. I'm adult, folks. Sorry about that. Hang on a second. Just had to turn the lights on for a second. Okay, we got sound. This is my sneaky way of getting you to post in the chat box. Yeah, I'm okay. No, sorry. That was. I see. I mute the microphone so that you don't hear me while you're listening to Scott Ritter, and then I forgot to turn the microphone back on. I fixed the camera, but I don't have a. Okay, now here's what I was saying. Scott Ritter is saying that that Israel is a terrible place to live because of the collapse of the economy. It's a terrible place to raise your children, and because of that, millions of people are going to leave, and have been leaving, and Israel's going to have a severe demographic crisis if this keeps up. Well, I've spent like 5 months here since the war started, and Israel is not a terrible place to live. It's a pretty nice place to live. The only problem I have living here is Saturdays, really. It bugs me that I can't do anything on Saturdays, and it's, enforced rest on Saturdays, really. So, Aliu, that's a good question. I'll get to your question in a minute. But that's just hey, this is their country. They can do it the way they want. And other than that, it's a safe country. Now, if Scott Ritter says that Israel is a terrible place to live and there are going to be millions of people leaving, well, actually, more than 30,000 families have moved to Israel since the war started, mostly from the United States and Europe. Why? Because it's getting very dangerous for Jews to live in the United States and Europe because they're getting attacked and assaulted at every turn. This is a huge problem that, Israel is the solution for in their minds. And I saw this at the beginning of the war. When the war started in Ukraine, you had millions of people fleeing Ukraine. Most of them came back after they figured out Ukraine wasn't going to collapse right away to the Russians. When the war started in Israel, you had tens of thousands of Jews, not Israelis, of Jews coming back to Israel. Okay, yeah, well, yeah, I guess you could say they're Israelis. A lot of them were dual citizens or whatever. Americans, Russians. I was on a plane coming here on October 9th from Tbilisi, Georgia, and it was full of Russian Jews coming back to the homeland here right at the height of the, uncertainty and fear and, chaos at the beginning of the war. And they were coming back to support Israel. There were people from the United States getting on the planes, coming back to to volunteer, to serve their country here in Israel and serve in the military. They've had more than 30,000 families that have moved, like I said, from the United States and Europe back to Israel since the war started. Now, they've had some that have left as well, but they haven't left because the economy is crumbling. They haven't left because it's a terrible place to live. There are 60, 70, 80,000 people who have fled their homes here in Israel up in the north that are still in Israel, that didn't leave and go somewhere else. So this is the largest internal displacement that Israel has ever seen in its history. But it's not an out migration. They're not leaving the country by and large. They're just moving to other places in the country until it's safe enough for them to go home. That is not what Scott Ritter says. He says that it's so bad to live in Israel that that millions of people want to leave. That's just not true. And if it's so bad to live in Israel, let's look at the crime rate, the overall violent crime rate in Israel as compared to the crime rate in the United States. Now, these are numbers taken from 2024. The source for Israel is the World Health Organization. The source for the United States is the FBI. The overall crime index in Israel is 31.9. That's middle of the road. The overall crime rate for the United States is 49.2. The safety scale shows that Israel has a slightly lower crime rate, 68.09 as opposed to 50.77. A higher score indicates better safety, so Israel is considered safer overall. Violent crime statistics. This is problem of violent crime such as assault and armed robbery. Israel is very low, 24.62 to 100,000. I think that's what that is. Yeah, 24.62 incidences of violent crimes like assault and robbery per 100,000 people. The United States is 49.98, so right at 50, about double. So by that metric alone, it's twice as dangerous to live in the United States as it is to live in Israel. Now, you could say, well, but that means I don't live in Chicago or someplace like that. No, that is an overall crime rate average for the whole United States. So, of course, you probably live in a place that's maybe a bit safer. I live in I have a home in West Virginia where it's quite a bit safer than that. And so we're not nowhere near that 50 number, but there are safer and more dangerous places here in Israel too. And this is the overall rate for them as well. The homicide rates in Israel are 1.94 per 100,000. Last I saw, they don't list it here. Last I saw in the United States was about 8 per 100,000. So quite a bit higher in the United States. Safety perception, walking alone during daylight. The safety is very high in Israel, 81.47. The United States is 70.64. Walking alone at night, the safety index in Israel is 67, and the United States is 44. So again, half again more dangerous in the United States. Israel's crime rate, that includes the attacks by Palestinians in Israel. the rammings, the shootings, the bombings, all the things that you hear about in the news, the terrible things that are happening to Israelis, including all those violent crimes in Israel. Israel is roughly twice as safe to live in as the United States on average. So just to give you those numbers, I wanted to give you those because it gives you some context. It gives you some ammunition when you hear people talking about, oh gosh, Israel's falling apart. Israel's people are all leaving. It's it's so dangerous there. Well, it's not. It's just not. Even with the threat of missiles, rockets, drones, stabbing, shooting attacks, all the homicides, the stuff that is happening, that's coming out of the West Bank, it's still safer here on an objective overall basis than it is in the United States on an objective overall basis. So that ought to, shut up some of the naysayers out there. But yeah, my chat rate went through the roof. See, I'm crazy like a fox like that. I accidentally turn off the sound on every live. No. Oh, by the way, if you were watching yesterday's live, the reason the sound kept going off is because Newsmax decided to call me on Skype. And I had my phone on Do Not Disturb, so it shouldn't have come through. But you know how it works. If you keep calling back over and over again, it will force it to go through. And that's what they were doing. And I whenever that happens, it makes my sound cut off. And it takes like 60 seconds for it to come back on the live. And it was driving me crazy. So I just ended the live, called Newsmax. So I figured there must be some breaking news they want me to report on or something. No, they just had me scheduled. They thought they had me scheduled for a live, and they didn't. The people in the back room at Newsmax are kind of a clown show. But so that's what it was. Sorry about that. There's nothing I can do about it. What is the wisdom in removing the hard asphalt surface on the roads in the so-called West Bank when rough dirt surfaces makes it quite easy for militants to hide IEDs and bombs? That's a very good question, Aliu. And actually, it's easier for them to find the bombs and IEDs when the road is torn up, but they tear it up because these guys hide those water balloons under the asphalt. They'll dig under there and emplace large IEDs and then clack them off when a convoy goes by. And so it's kind of like Israel's standing policy that if you commit an act of bad, if you do shenanigans inside Israel, then the home of the person who did the shenanigans will get flattened. And in this case, if there's an IED under a road, we're going to tear the whole road up, and you guys get to drive on dirt roads from now on because you don't get to have nice things if you're engaging in shenanigans. That's that's kind of the way that they look at that. Somebody wanted to see my shirt. Let's see if I can show you the rest of my shirt. This is a Black Rifle Coffee shirt. It's a rooster with a silenced M4 and night vision goggles. It's a Tacticock. It's a Tacticock. That's what the shirt is. So you asked, what's going on in Somalia with Egypt and Ethiopia? Very good question, Giselle. Man, I should do a whole live about that. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll answer that over on chuckholton.com a little better. I'll give you a quick answer right now. Somalia is a failed state, absolute. I mean, it's a mess. I've been there a couple times, and it is. They have an African Union force that has been there for years fighting Al-Shabaab. The African Union force gets rotated with troops from different countries. So when I was there, I think they were all from Ghana or Sierra Leone or someplace like that. And the current rotation is Egyptians. Now, Egypt kind of wanted to do that because Egypt has a real problem with Somalia because of a dam that Somalia is building. I think it's called starts with an O. Oh, I forget. It's been years since I've been up there, but I actually went up near there one time, and they are unhappy with the building of this dam. And so they are sending troops in there to perhaps do a little more than just try to get rid of al-Shabaab. No, Mary Bazoo said, do you mean your shirt doesn't mean you're going off half-cocked? That's right. It means I'm going off whole-cocked. Okay. And let's see here. Please don't have clickbait title like Israel has lost. That's not a clickbait title. That is exactly what I am answering tonight. It's in quotes. You'll notice on the thing. Scott Ritter says Israel has lost, and it's described very well in the description. So it's not a clickbait title. It's a title that's definitely meant to get your attention, and that's not clickbait. Clickbait is when I put a title up that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. Clickbait is when I put a girl in a bikini on the thumbnail so that all the guys will want to click on it to see the girl in the bikini. That's clickbait. If I'm putting in the title exactly what I'm going to be talking about, that's not clickbait. Just so you know. So, and I have to say, I get a little miffed when people endeavor to, castigate me for the way that I run my YouTube channel. If you don't like it, don't watch it. It's up to you. Do you know if the USA can get the drink you're drinking? I don't have any idea. I've never seen Ertog drink in the United States. I found it once I got here, and I like it a lot. So, do you think IDF will push north of the border to let people move back in? I think they're eventually going to have to. The Israelis believe they're going to have to. And they were really hoping that they wouldn't have to sooner rather than later. And now it looks like, so this is another thing that is in that video that Ritter's talking about, is he's quoting what Hezbollah is putting out, that they fired, that big last week when Israel made a preemptive strike and took out hundreds, if not thousands, of rocket launchers. And then Hezbollah fired off a bunch of half-cocked missiles just to do something. And there was literally one house that got hit and a chicken coop. This is why I put the chickens. I'm wearing this because the chickens are going to take revenge on Hezbollah. This is the revenge chicken. So Hezbollah came out and said, we've done a battle damage assessment, and we've decided, we've determined that our strikes were completely successful, and we took out very important military bases inside Israel during that strike last week. And Israel didn't actually hit anything when they bombed our stuff. Well, there's video of Israel, taking out their things. So that's kind of hard to say that it's fake. And I've been by or near several of the sites that Hezbollah says that they destroyed in that strike here inside Israel, and they're not destroyed. There would be huge plumes of smoke from those things, and there's not. So, and there's lots of video of the Iron Dome system taking those rockets and missiles down coming out of Hezbollah. So, coming out of Lebanon. So it's blatantly false on its face, and Scott Ritter is quoting it like it's scripture and saying, we can't really know, but it sounds like there goes our nightly ambulance. Sounds like, Israel really got struck hard in this, this strike that they came out of Lebanon last week. Thank you, program, whatever your name is there. In Canada, the government is crying about Islamophobia, yet they barely say anything about Jewish hate. Islamophobia is up 200%, but Jewish hate is up 900% since 2023. We even have ICE, those guys, the Smurfs, coming here to harm Jews. No one's harming. Yeah, okay, so I agree. Thank you for somebody endeavored to castigate me because I called the Canadian dollar the Canadian peso the other day. I was speaking facetiously because the Canadian dollar has declined so much against the US dollar that it's almost like the Mexican peso at this point. And that's why I jokingly call it the Canadian peso. One of those people just didn't have a sense of humor, I guess. Where in the world have you never been, Chuck? I don't go to the touristy spots a whole lot. I have been to, the thing is, I've been to more than 100 countries, but I go to 25 countries a year, and I have for the last maybe 20 plus years. So if you add all those up, it's a whole lot more than 100. It's just that I keep going back to the same countries over and over again. They need to have a war in Aruba or Jamaica or someplace, nice for me to go. But Fiji or something like that. I've never been to China except for Hong Kong. I've never been to India except for Mumbai. I've never been to Australia, and I would love to go. And if you're watching me from Australia, ask your church to have me come speak to your church, and we can talk about the concept of manhood or whatever you want. And I will come. I actually was supposed to go right before they shut everything down in 2021 for the, that thing, the disease which shall not be named, or you shall get deleted. So, that thing. Let's see here. Does Israel have gang or drug-related problems like in the U.S.? No, not like in the U.S. Yes, they do have gang-related problems. It's just that those gangs call themselves the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade or the Lion's Den or the PIJ or something like that. They don't have much in the way of, just straight up criminal organizations that are just like a mafia kind of thing. They don't have much in that way, at least not that I've ever heard of. Trump says he wants the U.S. to have an Iron Dome. What's your opinion? Well, I don't think it'd be possible because the U.S. is far, far, far too large. Number two, I don't think it's really necessary because Canada and Mexico are probably not likely to start lobbing rockets at us anytime soon. And we have something that would function as an Iron Dome system if there were things like incoming intercontinental ballistic missiles from someplace like North Korea. And that is an air force. We have an air force that can take care of these things. We do have the Patriot system. We have the THAAD missile system. I was talking about that last night. The THAAD missile system, anti-missile system, can shoot things down 25 miles into space, like 25 miles up. And so we do have that capability. I don't think we need it everywhere across the United States. I mean, why would we need that in Memphis or, Lincoln, Nebraska? We don't need an Iron Dome system there. So it would just be a big waste of money. Now, it might not be a bad thing to update and improve our Patriot missiles, our THAAD systems, because those are pretty old. they're still very effective, and we've seen that in Ukraine and in Israel. But Israel is very, very close to having a space laser that they can shoot down these things with. And that means that the United States ought to be jumping on that bandwagon with everything we've got, because that would make it way cheaper. As long as you have electricity, you'd essentially have an unlimited amount of ammunition, and that would be pretty cool. Okay, so let's see. I think that is about it. Chuck, why would the U.S. renew the UN in Lebanon and they can't do their job in the buffer zone? Yeah, because the U.S. is making a big mistake there. There are likely some people that have vested interest in that, and the UN is lying through its teeth when it comes to the effectiveness or the efficacy of these UN agencies like UNIFIL and UNRWA, and the one that's right across the border in Syria too, up in the Golan Heights. They're all worthless, and they just waste money. So we should not be funding those things, and why the U.S. continues to do so is beyond me. Obadiah is being fulfilled. How long have I been in Israel? This trip will be about a month. I'm leaving Tuesday. And in total, I've been here going on probably almost 5 months since the war started. Thank you for your dissertation. Godspeed. It's not a question. Why does Israel not move Gaza Palestinians to the West Bank so they're in one place? I don't think they could get away with it. They have a big enough image problem as it is, and a lot of that is self-inflicted. Because at the beginning of the war, people were so horrified by what happened on October 7th that they were like, yeah, Israel needs to protect itself. And then almost immediately, when they started protecting itself, people said, ooh, not like that. Not like that. We got all these armchair quarterbacks around the world going, not like that. You can't act, because the United States way to do it now, the U.S. strategy for winning a war is to do our best to win without actually offending the enemy. We're gonna go in and we're gonna pay them with one hand and then strike them with the other hand, and we're gonna see how well that works out. Well, you saw how it worked out in Afghanistan, not too well. So Israel has been fighting this pressure from the world at large to stop the war by losing, because all the world cares about is that the war stops. And they don't, like the bureaucrats in the State Department, in the White House, in the United States now, they are so feckless when it comes to foreign policy. They just don't get that war is supposed to be very, very, very violent and very short. And the more violent you make the war, the shorter the war will be. The less violent you make the war, the longer the war will be. And you'd think that would be a kind of no-brainer, but there you go. That's what you have from the U.S. government. We get a lot of no-brains from the U.S. government. I'm in the U.S. and I can't get the images of October 7th out of my head. Yeah, okay. Thank you. That's not a question. Are you coming back to Israel? Yeah, most likely. Now, before I leave, did we lose an F-16? I'm guessing you mean lose. Writing it loose, L-O-O-S-E instead of L-O-S-E. I'd say yes, we loosed an F-16 in Ukraine. We let it loose, let it go, and let them, go fight with it. And then it crashed. We gave them several, and they have some, but one of them did go down. Yes. How do you keep your cool under all of the lies the world thrives on? Yeah, it is ridiculous. You ought to see me yelling at my computer screen sometimes. Connie's over there going like, "Are you coming to bed?" And I'm like, "No, there's somebody wrong on the internet. I have to fix this." You know. So I'm not maybe as cool in the face of those lies as you might think. Speed, surprise, violence of action. That's right. Would you be interested in being Secretary of Defense? Would your wife allow it? No, she wouldn't. And no, I wouldn't. I'd rather not be the Secretary of Defense. I do actually kind of on the down low a little bit. I will consult with certain members of our government from time to time who will send me a text or give me a phone call and say, "Hey, you're on the ground there. What do you think about this? What do you think about what's going on there?" I've even gotten calls from congressional committees, from congressmen going, "This jackwagon across the aisle just said this, this, and this. How do I counter that?" And I say, "Well, tell him that." And he'll go, "Okay, thanks." And he'll hang up, and then he'll go and answer the question. So they use me to get in ammo and information just like you do. And that's why you ought to subscribe to this channel. So what's the food like over there? I eat a lot of falafel because I like falafel, and a lot of hummus, and probably falafel and hummus every day, pretty much. And I've been imbibing a lot of this Ertrog juice, Jordan Pond water, I call it. But that's about it, because I'm trying to eat vegan this year. So they have a lot of other good foods that I don't eat. Actually, I had a really good breakfast this morning at the hotel in Eilat. They were making these little sandwiches out of like a croissant with tomato and boiled egg whites. And there might have been a little cheese in there, maybe, I don't know, and tomatoes. And it was delicious. It was great. I ate like 4 of them. It was fantastic. What do you think of Tulsi Gabbard? She's okay on some things and not okay on other things. She's been wrong, dramatically, stratospherically wrong on many things relating to Ukraine. And I have called her out on that. And I believe she's wrong on abortion as well. She's all into the whole, reproductive rights thing. I have to be careful how I mention that, or I'll get deplatformed too. Clever enough to seek your advice. Okay, so yeah, keep praying for Israel. Israel is not about to collapse, not by any stretch. And their economy is not in shambles, and there are not millions of people leaving Israel, fleeing the war. And if Scott Ritter really wants to know what's going on in Israel, he ought to just shut his mouth, buy a plane ticket, and come over here and see it for himself. And I doubt he will, but that's what he ought to do. All right. So thank you for watching. Again, please like and subscribe to the channel. These things just keep getting demonetized because I keep saying the wrong keywords, and then I have to, ask for a person to review the video, and then they'll usually turn it back on after a few days, but after that, it's already had all the views it's going to get. So, all right. Thank you for watching on this Saturday. I will be meeting with Yair Pinto tomorrow, so we may do a live, or I may just film it and then put it up as a video. And I also have a couple of other really cool interviews coming up. I'm doing another one tomorrow at a kind of like a kibbutz, a little village down right near the border of Gaza. And it is going to be amazing. It's an amazing story. You're going to not want to miss it. So again, go to chuckholton.com and go ahead and subscribe over there. We'll talk to you guys later. Goodbye.